Okay, so next we want to bring on Kimberly Linson, and I'm going to share my other screen here.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. Hi. So, you can share video, please, Kimberly, and then I'm going to,
All right, I'm going to walk back to my desk. I was raiding the kitchen. That's
oh,
the
wow.
great thing
Well,
about us
it is supposed to be
being,
lunch and learn time, so hopefully everybody on the line is
well, it's, we work from home now. And so the kitchen and the office are just sort of all blend together.
yeah, it is. And animals run in and out. It's constant.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, I also put up on the screen a brief intro to what you guys are up to, which is what I'm excited about. And I know we had that
Sure.
conversation the other day
Sure.
with state of Oregon about their
Yes.
imminent need. And you guys have already created this solution. And is it North or South Dakota?
North Dakota.
North Dakota, real innovator. And, we've been talking to them for years. They used to all come down. Quite a few of them used to come down to our Minneapolis event every year. They drive like 400 miles
Right.
and come down and be with us physically at that event. And they were like really interesting people because they always had kids that are 100 miles from any physical school.
Right.
They're out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So you guys had to create this for them. So tell me kind of what is going on, because we think this is a wave coming at education, kind of like what we just shared with Walsh. They're building the rails in mathematics, and you guys are building.
We're building the pipes.
Yeah.
So, and actually I wrote their names down. I'm going to follow up with you afterwards, because I feel like there's definitely some synergy around what we're doing. I was in a call, a World Bank call this morning where there was an incredible discussion around new technologies and the supply chain of education, and how we can put the pipes underneath that supply chain so that things can flow smoothly. And I was hearing Al's sentiment about, how do you get the right material to the right student at the right time, and then document that they've done that, and where does that data live, and how does it, and how can it go with the student? I think, forever, right? We want to be able to carry the evidence of our learning through our lifetime. And so that the way that's being built from a technology standpoint is called a comprehensive learner record. And the idea is that we'll all have a comprehensive learner record that will be able to say, this is what I've done and what I've accomplished and what I know and what I've learned and the skills that I have achieved. And then we'll be able to keep it forever, right? It won't be, oh, my mom threw all that stuff away, when I finished high school, or, oh, I've got to go, go through the garage and try to find, this certificate that I got when I took this, weekend long course. Instead, we want those things to live digitally with us in a digital portfolio that you can then use at any point, with a potential employer or a potential higher education opportunity. You say, oh, I don't need to take that course because I did this 3 weekend long seminar and I have this certificate that proves that I have that knowledge. So that's where we're going. It's coming. There's no doubt about it. And this conference I was in this morning definitely laid the groundwork. This is not a U.S. education initiative. This is an international initiative that there are going to be this kind of record is going to be something that we all have, and goes with us across the lifetime of learning and employment. So North Dakota and how that relates is that they had a legislation that was they needed to have a proof of concept in a blockchain solution, and they decided to do it around transcripts. So if you're a student in North Dakota, a high school student in North Dakota, you have access to PowerSchool, and your e-transcript through your PowerSchool account. But once you graduate, you don't have that anymore, right? You're not connected to the institution. The institution shouldn't really own that data about you anymore because you've matriculated up through the system. And so what happens then? And that's where the comprehensive learner record and verified credential comes in, is that we've built this publishing service so that you can take your transcript and publish it to a digital wallet as a verifiable credential. And it is historical, right? It doesn't change. You graduated from high school. Doesn't matter if that was a year ago or 20 years ago, still the same. And so that static credential can live in your wallet forever. And when you need it, you need to prove that you have that diploma and that transcript. You're able to show it. So that's the work in North Dakota, and we're really excited about it. But if you remember when we talked last week, I told you I had a secret. Did you find out what my secret was?
Not yet. Yeah, but you have a comment in chat right now to also respond to. So
let me do that, and then we'll have the big secret reveal.
Yeah. So yeah, Lynn Schaefer-Wilner. Do you see it, Kimberly? Okay.
I do. And I think that this is that by using blockchain solutions, you really can, and this is, I have been in the blockchain space for only a few months, and so I'm still getting my head around it. But what I like about it, and what it does to address Lynn's point, is that right now it is the school or the classroom that owns my information and is looking at me as a part of that centralized system. And when you decentralize a system and instead you say, okay, so this individual is going to connect in and we're going to focus on what this individual has, I think we'll hopefully, and this is the idea of the supply chain of education being decentralized, is that we'll hopefully be able to then not be so siloed, right? Not have, what you do in math, not connect to what you do in English, but because we're looking at you as a student and your learning, we'll be able to look at the whole package.
Yeah, no, I unmuted Lynn to make that full comment. Lynn, do you want to restate what you were saying here so people understand where we're going with all that?
Can you hear me?
Yep,
yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay. I guess my concern is that I see in online learning, there's a lot with kids, did you do the assignment? Yes, no. So we're going to put a score on it of you got 2 out of 4, you have 3 out of 4, you have 4 out of 4. And it widgetizes students and what they're learning. And so because every activity has a number assigned to it, you end up putting kids in boxes, and the kids who are doing well keep doing well. And the kids who are struggling become more and more discouraged. And I see this firsthand, and I just say, like, how do you have it so that not everything is reduced to a digital number? And I get it, it's a digital system. And I realize we're trying to build the airplane while we're flying it. We're not at the spaceship stage. I realize we're in the midst of it. But I guess I would like to raise this concern because I see everyone's out. I see a lot of people who are very rah-rah about, gee, we're able to go and measure scores and we can line this up. And I would just like to introduce into the discussion the fact that feedback assessment for learning is important. It's not just about assigning a number to a student and then they have this number around their neck and they get trapped into a certain
right. The numbers
line.
The numbers are completely limiting, and they only tell a part of the story, right? Like they only tell. I have a 9-year-old who you just basically described, right? His numbers are okay, but he's miserable. I've never seen a kid who hates signing on to Zoom more. So I think that's and again, the airplane isn't built. And so I'm here promising you, dreams of the future. But the idea behind the comprehensive learner record is that you actually can put evidence of the learning, not just a score, but you can actually put a PDF in there of an example of what that student did, or you can, they can curate the things that represent, what their experience of learning has been, and how that teacher has tailored that learning to that student. That can all be collected in one place, as opposed to right now where it's just collected, it's not collected at all. It's all over the place.
Yeah. And
I
Kimberly,
appreciate what you're saying. I appreciate that. I just wanted to introduce this concept. Thank you.
I'm glad.
Yeah. And I think also, Lynn, one of the things that's happening is that this technology Kimberly's putting out, and again, we're going to also talk to identity automation tomorrow. Things are moving towards a individual sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, so let's say you're a student and you want to accumulate your proofs. You're an art student, so you have a lot of art things, or you're a science student, you have little videos of your science experiments. The things that you then share are not just this very flat transcript. It shows who you are. It's accumulated identity to you that moves you beyond pure only grades. And we're going to live in that world that Kimberly's talking about, where we're sort of between those two things. Grades will always be looked at. You have the prerogative to share or not share. And then, if the college it's asking you for your full transcript, they're asking for your full transcript. They want that. But you also want to share with them the other things, or however you want. But that sovereignty has already come to the healthcare market, and it's coming here. So I just want to mention that, because Lynn's totally right. I mean, we're all sick and tired of being numbers. Like, we're over that.
Yep. So here's how we're going to start, because this is literally the ocean and we're trying to boil it. And so one of the things that we've been doing at Randa is really trying to dive down into what's a manageable project. The North Dakota transcript was something we could make into a verifiable credential and put in a blockchain-based digital wallet. We could do that. What's the next thing? And that's where my secret last Wednesday, I couldn't tell you because it was embargoed. But last Thursday, it got announced. So I can tell you now that Randa won the American Council on Education's Blockchain Innovation Challenge. We're one of 4 winners. And so what we're building as a part of that challenge is a teacher wallet. And the teacher wallet, we started with teachers instead of, the North Dakota project was a really good proof of concept for us. But we feel like by starting with teachers, we're starting at someone who is in truth a lifelong learner. There's no one more, they learn every day, because they're doing, Lynn, what you were saying, they're looking at these students and diagnosing and making new plans and figuring out how to do that. They're constantly evolving. And yet we have made the barriers to entry into that profession so complex and cumbersome. And so is there a way that we can help teachers? And we believe when teachers adopt this solution, because it's helpful for them, they will lead the way for both, actually for students, for education institutions, and for the workforce to be, to come along behind them, because they'll lead the way. And so the teacher wallet will allow teachers to store all of the things that go into their license. So their transcript from college, their EPP, their proof of their student teaching, their praxis examinations and the scores from those, their diploma, licenses from other states, anything that is related to their professional persona that would allow them the mobility to, I want to be licensed, I'm in Colorado, but now I want to be licensed in Utah, to be able to take those things and bring them with them, portability. And so we're going to be demonstrating that our minimum viable product to the American Council on Education at the end of April. And then after that, we will be releasing it to teachers everywhere, and trying to get teachers on to help us build this system so that it works for for you and for what you need and how you need to organize your professional information. So we're super excited.
Well, that was awesome.
Lifelonglearnerproject.org if you wanna see what we're doing. That's the Lifelong Learner Project. It's an ecosystem first. We've got really great partners from all over helping build this solution. So we're excited.
Well, awesome. Well, this is LeiLani. I'm back on
Thank
video.
you. Good
I'm
to
going to
see you.
take over the show from you for now.
Right.
And I'm excited about this work because I want to just bring it down to practical, like right now-ness. This is not something to walk away from right now, because what schools are going to need to do to remain competitive is offer things like sovereignty over your own data as a student. And small privates are not going to do this, small charters are not going to do this, but larger districts and schools that want to provide an extra service for their teachers and for their students, give them dominion over their own sense of self-accomplishment, hugely competitive move against the total consumerization of the market.
Right.
So thank you, Kimberly.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Okay, great.
Have a great afternoon.
All right. So I'm going to move back over to sharing with you what's going on with logistics. Then we're going to show a short video, and then we're going to have Dr. Tillman with us, who's awesome, by the way. I just love this lady. I've known her for a couple of years, and I think she's super awesome. So I'm going to try to be fast getting through all this stuff and showing the video. All right. So first of all, if you didn't get the email before this event, there was a document we wanted you to download. It's a PDF form of the updated work of the EduJedi, which is about 400 schools and districts who formally signed the pledge. Lots of other people follow the EduJedi, pretty much our whole readership. And if you have questions or comments on it, raise them at any time. We're going to have an in-depth dive into this document tomorrow because it's so amazing. But you can download it anytime at that link. Just go to thelearningcouncil.com/special-reports and you'll be able to find it. But I'm going to whip through the high-level discussion about hybrid logistics. What is the shift in expectations right now in the market? Because it's a total landscape shift. And what does that mean for shift in time and space use? And what are the new principles of what are the really advanced hybrid logistics conversations? Because this is the stuff you're going to be dealing with through 2021 and 22. So first of all, where are we? In 2019, our national data showed that homeschooling was growing already at 20% annually. 27% of the United States population had left traditional public education in favor of charters, privates, and homeschooling. Now, the pandemic. In 2020, we're conservatively at 33.6% who are out. That's additional 3.6% over that 27% average per district. However, in January, we did another survey, and the early expectations from the earlier survey, closed in October 2020, was that 3.6%. But in January, we surveyed again, and it's 15%, which is what we were hearing from the bigger districts. Dallas ISD was at 15% loss. Some of the California districts, way more than that. So this is conservative, 33.6. It's probably more like we're getting close to 42%. This is a massive shift in the market. And very few districts we talk to right now are saying that this isn't true. They're like, yeah, we've lost a bunch of kids. They think they're going to get them back and it's only temporary, but the mutation of time and space is forcing a re-engineering or backwards engineering of the execution of learning that most people aren't expecting. And I'm going to walk you through that. So we did this game at our national gathering. Look, if you can see the picture up in the right-hand corner, it was like a giant foam core, like mouse pad type board. And it had a twister looking thing in the middle, which we called the house room. And each of those twister lines, 1 through 8, was a different pretend subject. Everybody got instructions. Some people were kids and students, and some were teachers, and some were what we called activity leaders and house office guides and those kinds of people. This was an alteration And this was 2019 and 2020, where we were playing this game until we got stopped from being on the road. Essentially, what it does is it reorganizes away from class structure to course structure. So still maybe in grades, but remove every teacher in a walled off classroom and start using them for their most effective and efficient direct instruction, sometimes whole group, sometimes small group, but mostly direct instruction type of a model, not based on competency only, but pace. So this is, as I walk you through this, you're going to go like, what? I don't know what you're talking about, but just keep this graphic in mind. This game is downloadable online. You can play it as a group, even via a Zoom meeting where you sort of create little icons and move them around on the board. All right. So these were the instructions. Again, these are all downloadable, where every 30 seconds you would move and you would understand then the dynamics of motion, of learning, of moving through learning of the students and the teachers. All right. Parents are still afraid right now. They don't want to come back. There's supposedly variants of COVID. And then you've got the other parents who are desperately wanting normal back. It's about a 50-50 split. So here's what's happening with space and time right now. And you heard a little bit of this morning from Forsyth. They're already doing the simul teaching, where they've got some kids on video and some kids in front of them. But in terms of space, and this was mostly happening in New York, they were sectioning buildings by entrance. Like this group can go in and they're not supposed to mingle with the other group at the other end of the building. And then alternating building use by groups. So maybe you're in one day as sixth grade and then the next day is seventh grade, and you disinfect overnight the spaces. And then you have this new idea, which is the house room, where students are socially distanced and they're individually asynchronously learning until they see on their calendar a moment when they're going to convene into a classroom, and then they go back to the homeroom. This is an old model. It's sort of the Harry Potter world model. It's been around for a really long time, and it's really top of mind for a lot of districts right now. How do they do this when teaching is a smaller part of the schedule and asynchronous is much more of the schedule? Of course, there's social distancing, there's kids remote. California's got a lot of micro schools. They take over retail space locally and they micro school. This is to reduce infection rate. And then a lot of parents over development, little pods. People converted their garages. 3 or 4 families got together and decided they would co-quarantine. And they've got, one parent trading with another parent every other day, overseeing the garage zone. And then in terms of time, the traditional schedule sort of went out the window. It could be with a traditional schedule with or without remote video conferencing. You've got another thing happening with time, and that is a rotation of schedules of AB days or AB weeks. Like high school is going to be in this week, and then middle school, and then high school. Staggered starts are common now, especially at the beginning of the school year. It's like we're going to start elementary and then middle and then higher ed. This is high school. This is really wild for teacher lesson planning. I really want you to understand that what we're hearing a lot from the teacher ranks is that this massive moderation of time, we're going to be in, we're going to be out, we're going to be remote. Now we have a snow day, and is pretty wild on them, because typically they have to sort of plot their lesson plans, and then all of a sudden the whole disruption occurs and it sort of rips up the whole calendar for them. So that's a technology that's needed, and that's what the Learning Council has been sort of looking at. So also this idea of how you could auto cohort students based on pace when they're doing asynchronous learning, and calendaring by pace. So what that means is the first genesis of this came in individual pieces of software. Like Scholastic has a reading program where once you're sort of tested into what your Lexile level is of reading, you're auto-cohorted into a group and you're shown the certain level of books. Now, the teacher has a lot of power in the system to change your level or give you things slightly above and slightly below your level to keep you busy. But that auto-cohorting by ability or by pace is already done in a lot of courseware in mathematics and a lot of other things. Teachers doing this, a lot like what we talked earlier about today, is hard, because they would have to send customized for every single student. And if they have to go out and look for everything, it's really not going to happen. one of the little secrets we used to talk about when we were on the road was that the truth is teachers triage. There's certain kids who aren't getting it at such a majestic level of not getting itness that they sort of get triaged out so that the teacher can save the greater class by focusing their attention on them. And these other kids just sort of, they get left behind. That's always going to be true as long as the class structure remains. What you'll notice is that the online structures don't do that. They're course structured rather than class structured, but they don't get rid of all teachers. Although some of the fully online stuff in the consumer market tries to. The truth is you need a human interface. So the trick has always been, how do you create a quality human interface, teacher leading student with some direct instruction, but allow it to have every student get totally personalized learning? Well, like I said, it doesn't really work to totally personalize learning for every student. In a class structure, when you're pelting teachers with constant huge numbers of academic standards and a changing calendar, and then what materials do they use? And I got to rip this up and rip that up. And then every student is a different human. So they have to be, the personalization for each individual human is a mountain, right? It's really a big thing to manage. So if you apply all those things in your mind, you start to think about auto cohorting and auto calendaring and a changed structure. That's what's really happening in what's going on in schools right now, is they're mutating, but most of them don't know where this really goes. And we're here to tell you as Learning Counsel that all the research that we've looked at is the structure changes, the role of teachers changes, and how they are used most effectively as human teachers is changing. So the impact on teachers in this whole shifting space and time thing is that some of them are teaching from home. They have to. They're older. They're at risk via video conferencing systems, or you're still remote as a district and you're having to do that anyway. They're teaching in the classroom, classes on campus, and then the students are also from video. That's hard. That simultaneous teaching or concurrent teaching is hard. It's probably the hardest thing we've ever asked people to do. And as leaders, we really got to step back and say, why are we asking people to do this? This is hard. Like, this is almost insane. Kids are like literally 20 feet away behind plexiglass. They can't hear the teacher. And if the teacher walks off screen, unless they're using Lightspeed technologies where they're audio enhanced, nobody can see them. So like, what are the kids at home getting? Like, this is wild. This is an equity issue. So then you've got also what happened when we went into quarantine is a lot of schools weren't ready at all. Unlike Winston, who had a lot of stuff already built this morning when they talked to us, they were pre-built, a lot of stuff. A lot of districts were, but there's huge numbers that weren't. And so they're like, what do we do? We got 4 days or 5 days or a week or 2 weeks. So they moved to frontline, teachers at the frontline calling roll call, getting kids to do anything. While the backline teachers were laying all the bricks of the lesson plans to be remote and asynchronous. Okay, that frontline backline may never go away. And that may be a really good model to think about, that you have frontline teaching and the backline people who are finding stuff. We used to call it teaching assistants, but really, if you have a structure that you could do that, it's a pretty efficient thing to do. Some teachers were assigned to be roving, where they had to go into neighborhoods, but only these neighborhoods, not other neighborhoods. And then you have this other thing that was really complex, and that is direct instruction on demand online. We had superintendents telling us their teachers were getting calls at 11 o'clock at night. So you have companies like T-Mobile saying, let's get our teachers a second phone because they need to be able to shut off work at some point in the day, and still be able to hear from their own mom with their phone still on. So these issues of how you do direct instruction and on-demand online are coming to schools. So one of the things that we saw from Kurt Madden, who's one of our thought leaders nationally from Fresno Unified in California, right off the bat, they said, we don't have a captive audience anymore. We need to get over ourselves. A teacher is now a coach or a mentor. Whoa, that freaks people out in the teaching ranks. They don't want that until they start thinking about the workload and how it doesn't make good use of their teaching in terms of actual core competency, which is direct instruction. How to unravel the mind of the individual student who just doesn't get fractions. and those kinds of things. So they wanted to be able to teach in all three environments, traditional with masks and plexiglass, and then the blended and remote, and then distance learning only. But they didn't want to do distance learning where it was like, that's the rail over there and those are those kids. They wanted to have it also sort of feel like it was part of the community of the school, because, you know, you have some parents who are like, this is great, I want to be all online all the time, except I want my student on the football team. So how are you going to do that? So this flexibility is now sort of a demand backwash on schools that is forcing this discussion of hybrid logistics. All right, so I want to show you something that's kind of like, this is like an eye test if you look at this slide, but this is the lay of the land. This is all the stuff on the horizon of all of your digitalness. And so you got your hardware over here in the orange boxes, and all your other random hardware, like your audio enhancement, you have to have now in classrooms, including for the students. They need those little things that they can talk into that projects to the rest of the classroom from light speed. And then you got robotics. How are you going to get those around? How are you going to sanitize those? And then you have all your server issues, and your network issues are off the charts because you have remote people that don't have enough bandwidth, all that. Now, over here on the software side, look how complex this looks. And this is simplified. So you got your portals and your paywalls. You have things coming out, which are the new hybrid logistics scheduling platforms, which are, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about. This whole identity, sovereignty, Randa talked about this a little bit. Identity automation, we'll talk about this. This is a class link thing in access management. Then you got the security stuff happening, data warehousing, analytics, and then you got to integrate all this stuff. This work is really hard. And then below that, at the curriculum level, you have your student information system, rostering. Your learning management system also needs rostering. Your grading and badging, separate platforms, your testing platforms, your facilities management, your PD management, financial, chatbots, office suites, all this stuff. All this has workflow issues between it. And then you've got all your random apps and ebooks. This is all at the teacher level. And the average teacher has some 10, 12,000 different things and links and stuff. The average district has some 5,000 resources. There's about 7,000 companies that are integrated through ClassLink alone. It's huge. And it's different ones at different grade levels. This is sort of like a mini view of what that would be. So what's coming is something that starts to manage logistics at the level that FedEx can get a box anywhere in the world within 24 hours. That's the level of logistics we're talking about, like airline logistics. Like this cohort gets on this plane in Sacramento, goes to Houston, everybody disaggregates and goes on other planes to other parts of the world. Those are the logistics that don't exist in the current structure of bureaucracy of education today. So when you start to think about hybrid logistics and you think about auto cohorting and the auto distribution of resources based on where you're at on the pacing and lesson plan map, then you can get to auto calendaring live interaction. Now you're talking about the perfection of the teacher intersection with the individual student. So let me back up for just a second and say to you, comment, please. Stop me at any time and go, what are you talking about? Because I don't understand. Or anything else that you want to comment along the way. Happy to hear from you. I'm showing you right now a slide we've been showing on the road when we were out running around. The largest study ever done, 120,000 15-year-olds. It's going to be slightly different for the youngest kids. The optimum of screen learning, and I'm going to qualify screen learning, is 4.5 hours per day, but you can't take all 4.5 hours because kids are going to be on their phones and on their own chat and stuff and video gaming at night. So you probably should take less than that. But let me qualify what screen learning actually is. So 40% of your time, your time is school time, is about 2.5 hours a day. That leaves 2 hours for personal screen use. Otherwise, it's like, your brain burns. So 60% of your time then of leading instruction, remote, hybrid, live, in person, it doesn't matter, should be project-based, whole group, which might include video conferencing, but it has to be authentic engagement time, not just sit and get. So let's just qualify 40% screen learning. That 40% of time is ingestion time, receipt time, like the old watching television only and not commenting on anything time. past that, you could still use screens, but now you're using them for actual live engagement, like doing a math program, doing some sort of writing project together, maybe with other kids, history games and things like that, doing small group conjoined functions where you're working together, anything that is direct instruction engaged where you're in a dialogue, that's okay. That's still sort of on the screen, but now you're doing something. So I want you to differentiate between those two things. But pure ingestion time, where it's just sit and get a lecture or just read something, should only be about 2.5 hours. And you got to spread that across every single teacher and all subjects. So here's your big questions right now. This is why we're talking about hybrid logistics and why we're insisting that all leadership really starts to play with the concepts that we're going to give you and says, how am I going to do this? How am I going to unburden my teachers? My people are overwhelmed. How am I going to manage space? Because this is wild. Got kids at home, kids over here, kids there. Some are coming, some teachers won't come in, they can't. And it's like, this is wild. And then how do I use time better? Like, I cannot have 7-year-olds on a Zoom call for 6 hours a day. I can't do it. So workflow, which is the bedrock of logistics, is becoming the entire thing that keeps you up at night as a leader. Like, how do I do this? How do I disaggregate the age-old bureaucracy from the last 200 years where everybody's in a class? They're assigned into this structure. How do I change that? And I know this gets pretty scary, but here's why this is really not going to work the way schools are doing it now. So the problem is, as a teacher, when you're live teaching plus your virtual teaching, you've already got an enormous burden. It's a physical constraint on you to walk off camera and avoid doing that and not help the kid way in the back of the room who's got their hand raised, which you have to shout to and hear back from. And the shy kids are never going to speak up in that sort of environment. So you have issues just with that structure right there. And then now as a teacher, here's what you're doing. In the physical classroom, when you distributed assignments, most of the times it was paper, and you just handed it to the kids in the front row and they passed it back to the kids in the back. This was easy. Now you're distributing each of those individual PDFs, emails, documents of some sort, links to something, directions on how to get to the right thing in the right system. It's nested in your LMS, or go over and log in over here to this other thing over there. And you got all this traffic. Okay, so I'm giving a warning. I don't have as much time. So all of this traffic of all the management back and forth, and then the individual management of all your individual parents and all your individual kids, people are not looking at this digital traffic that didn't exist in the physical world, but it's a huge amount. And it's overwhelming teachers. So what we're changing to is away from this bureaucratic structure. We're currently in mutation, and we're headed to asynchronous learning, distributed service, and the use of extraliminal services outside our own organization, like tutors, people that manage question and answer online. And we're moving also to algorithmic intersection. I'm gonna let that sink in. So what this means is that if you were a teacher, just to try to personalize for every single kid, it would kind of look like this. This is all your resources per child. This is insane and very hard on teachers, especially when they're dealing with time and space changes. So the teacher-centric versus student-centric view is coming to the forefront, moving away from grade and class structure to course only, much higher percentage of asynchronous learning, full digital transition then unburdens your teachers from having to do everything for every single student. And now you're working on pace, but not necessarily only competency. And you're leveraging the qualities of your teachers that are human, which is really what you should be doing with your human teachers. And how lessons are really done is they're moving from this structure, standards and frameworks, plots on calendar by the district, and then every teacher builds all the lesson plans, and then has to do that duplicatively, every teacher across your whole district, to something that looks like this, where each individual lesson plan that you see on D is a normalized pre-built pathway, and it intersects in there when is the live teaching moment. So it's not the all moments, it's when is the precision moment that the teacher is needed. The other times are read this, do this other stuff. That's the difference. So I'm probably going to come back to showing you all of this, but it's definitely different behavior also from the students. They would hit one of those intersections early. They're the first in the cohort, so they have to wait until everybody else arrives. If it's set at 10 students or something, go study something else and come back, then do that class, and so forth. This is the same thing Amazon does with package shipping, by the way. So that hybrid logistics means every student achieving, a lot of management by dashboard, a lot of teachers used for their best in class skills. And what it also means for teachers in schools is that there's going to be a lot of questions, there's going to be a lot of changes, and the schools who get this right early will bring back their homeschoolers because they're able to provide a quality personalized experience. All right, so I'm going to finish there and not go through the rest of this stuff, but you'll get a badge for this. We're going to have next, no question and answer time right now. We'll probably have some of that on this whole topic later on, but type in your questions so I can answer them back. I know this was fast. It's a lot of material. We have many editorials coming out on it as well. You're going to get this badge. We're going to go to a 2-minute video right now. And then my friend, Dr. Keisha Tillman is going to join us. We're super excited. Hi, Keisha. You and I are going to go off video for a couple minutes and then come back. Cool? Okay, hang on, my dear.
Firefly Computers and Trinity 3 Technology are now Trifera. And at Trifera, we don't measure success by how many devices we sell to schools. We measure success by how those devices are used to transform the learning experience. Today, we are at Hayworth Unified School District, and we want to share their story with you.
Our planning was definitely different this year. We spent the summer planning for the unknown. We didn't know if we would be in person or virtual or a combination of the two. Our focus was on preparing staff and families for a constantly changing learning environment.
What's wonderful is the opportunities that the technology provides. With COVID, we're not able to get out and experience field trips this year. And so we can bring those learning experiences into the classroom.
What we did in Google Earth is, we would travel to like a ton of places like Japan or China, the Eiffel Tower, Washington, D.C., and see all those monuments, the Liberty Bell, the pyramids, and like all kinds of other stuff. You could maybe even see your home.
So we did this project where we pretended to go to different places, and we made these digital postcards that we could send to our friends and family.
The two companies that came together to form Trifera were really known for not only our educational hardware, but also our warranty services and our white glove services. And of course, we bring all of that historical knowledge and that expertise to the new company, and I think we do it better than what we ever have before. But we're using this as a platform to really rally around educators and empower them with the skills that they need through professional learning and through digital curriculum to be able to provide these kinds of learning experiences to students.
Moving forward, I feel like every teacher is more confident, better equipped, and more effective at educating students using the technology that we have. And when students are learning, that's all that really matters.
Trifera, transforming learning experiences.
Okay, and we're back. And I'm going to call on Philip right now to introduce himself and say who he's with, and then we'll move on to Dr. Tillman.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. To be completely honest, I'm really just excited to be here to learn about what different facilitators are seeing and hearing in this kind of new world that we're all experiencing. But like the video said, we're Firefly Computers combined with Trinity 3, some names that you might be more familiar with, but we've recently formed Trifera, and that's kind of it, just your hardware and curriculum and instruction go-to. So But more than anything, I'm here to learn. So thank you so much for everybody that's been speaking.